Hello and welcome back. This is the Pilgrims of Plunder podcast. And as usual, I am here with Doug, and we are having conversations on stuff and things. Today's episode is
Stuff
going
and things.
to be stuff and things as
Thanksgiving. What?
as structurally unstructured as possible. We're gonna plan to be spontaneous here. So no, but the whole point of it is just random conversations and random topics. And wherever our weird minds lead us, nothing's off the table. All topics can be within appropriate reason. And it's just going to be whatever. And to start things off, I have found, because the internet is the best thing ever, which isn't a true statement, but I found a random topic generator. And so we're gonna start with this. And it's dumb. Well, it was the first one that came up, and I actually thought it was kind of fun.
Okay.
So the question is, if you had to get rid of a holiday, which would you get rid of and why?
Oh, I know what mine is, but man, I'm gonna get real trouble, especially with the flag behind me. So, oh no, that's a bad one. There's
It's great. It's great.
Oh, you first.
Oh, well, I'm trying not to give the all of them answer.
Well, you hate it. I all right, and this is just on a personal level.
Right.
My first one that came to mind was 4th of July.
Okay.
And I'm like, people can see the bag flag behind me, like, wow, obviously the United States is a great country. I love America, but I'm not a fireworks fan. I always thought, it was just, I don't know, it was such like a weird holiday because there was no appropriate, interesting rituals. I guess you barbecue and you go watch fireworks.
My good sir.
I know. Oh, the other one was Valentine's Day, so I went with my wife.
Oh yeah, amen to that one.
Um,
It's so insignificant. I didn't even think to get rid of that one.
I used to like I always try. I'd get her flowers frequently. I've been bad the last few years. I used to frequently get her flowers, but I said I will not get you flowers anywhere near February 14th. The price triples.
Oh yeah,
and it's such a conspiracy by Hallmark.
Yep.
Agreed. But yeah, but for 4th of July,
4th of July.
I just, to me, there's only 3 holidays. So I'm a New Englander, and you guys don't have these holidays. I don't think in Tennessee. So Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Those to me are the big 3 holidays.
Halloween is huge down here.
I hate saying this. This gets me in trouble. Man, we're gonna lose all viewers on this thing.
It's fine.
I love Halloween.
So do I.
Understand the danger of it, but to me, I love the idea that you just dress up and you go candy begging.
Yep.
And it's actually, for someone who's not, I'm not that social, it's the only holiday we have which requires community.
Yep.
It's the only one. Everything else is very family based.
That's why it's really big down here.
Yeah. And we have a great neighborhood. I live in a rural part of Northwest Connecticut, and we have this wonderful little circle, and we have people bust in because it's a huge thing. People decorate their houses, they go full out.
Oh yeah,
and the kids go wander around candy begging. Also, as a kid, it was low stress. Christmas is epic, but Christmas can be high stress.
Yep.
Halloween, just get a costume, get some candy, wander around.
Right? Wander.
But so are you a big 4th of July person?
So I, being a New Englander, one of the culture shocks coming down here was the absence of Memorial Day, because that's a Northern holiday.
Yeah.
Because that was a holiday established in the wake of the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the presence of the 4th of July, because that is a holiday of independence, right?
Yeah.
So the 4th of July resonates very well down south.
Yeah.
And Memorial Day is non-existent. 4th of July is a big deal down here. I mean, yeah. And what rituals? I'm like, well, they're very Southern rituals. Of course, you grill out. We do that all the time anyway, because it's the South.
I don't like barbecue.
You grill out and you set things on fire, and it's a great holiday. However, Halloween is huge down here. There are like block parties, like the subdivisions, as they're called, the neighborhoods. they essentially just like self block off,
Yeah.
and everyone comes out into the streets and sets up these massive things. And so what people do is they bus their kids. I mean,
Yep.
there are just like rows of cars parked on the main road
Yep.
because they all get off and they go into these subdivisions, which are, they're block parties at that point.
Yeah.
It's massive. And it's a lot of fun. And there's a huge thing for nostalgia for me. I loved it as a kid.
Me too.
I love it as an adult having kids. I'd love it as an adult, period. I get to still enjoy it because I have kids.
Yep.
So I get to take,
Yep.
last
They're
Halloween.
little. They're a great age to do it.
It's
Yeah.
great. Last Halloween, I did this because when I was a kid on Nickelodeon, there was the show Are You Afraid of the Dark? And what I would do on Halloween is you go out and you get all your candy, and then you come back, and then on my living room floor, I would dump out my bag and I'd organize my candy.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's OCD. Maybe that was.
I do it too, but yeah, I'm not surprised both of us do that. But anyways,
right.
my
So I
daughter does that
organize all
also,
my
but,
candy,
no.
and Nickelodeon would have marathons of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So this past Halloween, when Sarah was done trick or treating, came in, and she and I downstairs in the family room downstairs, on Amazon, you can stream Are You Afraid of the Dark? And so I just started streaming that, and we organized her candy, and she and I sat there and just ate candy and watched TV. And I'm like, it was a wonderful public, celebration with everybody. And then it was nice to just sit and have she pass on that memory, that tradition.
Yeah, we watch every Halloween. We watch The Legend of Sleepy Hollow,
Okay.
the Ichabod Crane with Bing Crosby, which is amazing. I love the kids. I love that, and now it's tradition. Rebecca expects it, and I have this old Hallmark 1970s pop-up book. It's a very kid book. It's about a haunted house, but it's actually a lonely old man that was just trying to scare people, and the kids befriend the man, and there's a happy ending. Spoilers, but very, very G-rated, and it's a great pop-up book. And I remember as a little kid, she loved it because it's something you don't see much this day and age. And I still read that. I mean, she's off to college this year, and we still read it. So, and obviously, I suppose we need to talk about theology here. I mean, I understand the danger of Halloween. I understand its origins. And it's something like the church. I don't think the church should all endorse, harvest parties or whatever. Even that, no. But as a cultural thing, that's just candy begging with the local neighbors, and that you dress up, as long as it's not too ghoulish. I mean, Rebecca used to dress up as someone from little House on the Prairie, or Ladybug, or Batgirl.
Nothing ghoulish or sexual.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand Halloween is like the second largest holiday for adults.
Yeah.
And there is definitely a dark aspect to it, and I get that. But as a community holiday where little kids get to dress up and go candy begging, I'm okay with it. Now, in your Christian freedom, if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
Sure.
I mean, if you think that it has too much of a dark influence, and you can make arguments for that, and you don't want your kids participating, that's absolutely fine.
Then you better not have a Christmas tree for Christmas either, if you're going to go that extreme.
Well, I think I could. Yeah, I disagree with that one. No, I think you can make an argument. Halloween is worse than
Halloween is worse than the commercialization of Christmas. Yes, I'm fine with that.
But Christmas also,
Christmas for nostalgia.
I'm gonna get so much trouble over this stupid question.
No, it's fine.
Because you used to belong to the church I serve.
Yep.
Part of me hates Advent in the church.
Yep.
Now, I don't mind a Christmas sermon on the Sunday before Christmas. I love Christmas carols, but I don't know what's it like down south. But like for mainline congregational churches, you have to have 4 to 6 sermons only on 2 chapters of the whole Bible every single Advent season.
Right.
And I'm like, oh. And sometimes I will do a Christmas, like last year I did a mini series on the 4 Sundays of Advent. I worked through Matthew 1 or 2, I forget which one it was, and that was fine. I think it was actually Matthew 1. But but that notion that like we should just push everything aside and focus on Christmas.
Right.
Where historically, Christmas, of course, is, if you believe in the liturgical calendar, Christmas is not a major holiday in the church.
Nope.
It's Easter.
Yeah.
If you're in a liturgical calendar.
Yep.
So in your Reformed Baptist church, do you guys have Christmas sermons?
Honestly, you wouldn't know that it was Christmas but for the handful of sparse decorations in our church. No, because
the preaching doesn't change.
No, because
How
it's
about the hymns?
Because the hymns, the singing changes. You do Christmassy singing,
Yeah.
but no, and my pastor's statement and sentiment being, well, I preach Christ every Sunday. You don't make a special event for it for the month of December. It's like, but we always preach about Christ. So yeah, Christmas, the Christmas month, Advent isn't a big deal in our church. Now, I mean, again, if you go to any other, churches down there, I couldn't speak to that.
Well, historically, the Reformed churches didn't have Christmas.
Right.
You have only one holiday, the Lord's Day.
Right.
And I remember my advisor at seminary, he was an Anglican, but he was from Scotland. He spent some time in Scotland. They didn't have Christmas until after the Second World War in Scotland because they were Presbyterians.
Right.
And because that was some Roman Catholic holiday, and you just don't do that. No,
right. As most liturgical holidays are.
Now, obviously, higher church, high church Protestants, Anglicans, Lutherans are going to have it, and I don't mind a little of it. I know, again, the church I serve, we every Sunday would have something special, and of course, what you cut is the sermon, and I had to fight back about that. It's like, no, this, the Lord's Day is vastly more important than Christmas.
Yep.
But for holidays, it's funny. We're rambling here. I asked my daughter that a couple days ago. What's your favorite holiday? And it was not surprisingly Halloween and Christmas.
Yeah.
And the one she didn't like was Thanksgiving. And from a kid's perspective, I get that, because that's
Thanksgiving's boring as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. You eat boring food.
Right.
You have to deal with all these old people, and you have to sit there at the table.
Right. It's none of it's fun. There are no presents. So the first Thanksgiving here, when we moved down here, so 2 years ago, was the best Thanksgiving that I've ever had. And it was because for the first time ever, it wasn't a get dressed up, go somewhere. There was no expectation. So what it was, we cooked here on our own schedule.
Yep.
We had no company over, and we didn't go anywhere. Now, granted, we also had just gotten down here, so we didn't really have anyone or anything. We only had ourselves. We had our family. It was one of the most enjoyable holidays I've ever had in my life. It was a super chill, and the food was great. Susie did an amazing job. But yeah, it was definitely a very different experience. But you're right. Thanksgiving's an unnecessarily high stress holiday.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to be that crazy. I would also, to answer the question, I would also get rid of Valentine's Day. I forgot about it because it's a stupid not holiday.
Pray for our wives, people.
It's really bad. It's such a dumb holiday. But I think I got away 2 years ago because we bought our house in March.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, look, I bought you a new house. I don't have to get you a Valentine's Day. We're moving. That's your present.
No, I know because I know, like, when it comes to Christmas, one thing I lament, I grew up in Christmas. We always had Christmas at my home, at my parents' home.
Right.
And now, when I had my own family and my daughter, we would travel, and we had to.
Yeah.
But there was one Christmas we were snowed in. And also, in one sense, I hate Christmas because I work Christmas. I work Christmas Eve. It's a very busy season.
Right. That's a working holiday for you.
And that's part of the job, and I get it. But like that nostalgia of just being home on the 24th and then the 25th. And we had a snowstorm one year, and I loved it because we were just snowed in. And Verna's an incredibly good cook, hence my weight problem. But so that was very enjoyable. But Thanksgiving story. And this is a little bit selfish, but I thought it was hilarious. When I was in Missouri, they always had a Thanksgiving Eve service, or you had a Thanksgiving service on that Wednesday. And
Okay.
Verna had to go back to Vermont where her parents were from. And she took the kid, she took the dog, and I had the dog. And I had to stay by myself. So I was going to be alone on Thanksgiving. And I remember a bunch of the guys in the church, we were talking, and they said, Pastor, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just home. And it's like, oh, that's so bad. And it's like, you can come with why don't you come with us? I'm like, I appreciate the invite, but I'll be honest, it's been a really, it was a really lot of work. We had a lot of folks sit that year. I'm looking forward to sleeping late, spending the whole day in my bathrobe.
Right.
I have 2 gourmet pizzas. I'm gonna, throw them in the oven and sit on the couch and watch football and play video games all day.
Yep.
And I remember the guys' expression. They all went and like, yeah, I'm driving 6 hours with 8 kids in the station wagon. Because and they all looked at me, it's like, and they went from like pity to jealousy.
Right.
Like, can we come over to your house?
Right. Can we?
No, obviously you can't do that every Thanksgiving. There's a place for family, and I have good memories of Thanksgiving at home in Manchester. But I remember that one Thanksgiving because that one time it was nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And and I have very fond memories of Christmas as a kid.
Yeah.
Because you are the recipient of all the things, and you don't actually have to do anything. And I have a lot of fond memories of even like Christmas season, winter time, like night, lots of snow, candles, tree lights, like the atmosphere, the ambiance. I enjoy the cultural Christmas. I have no problem with it. And I know people try to make it this people try to make it this super religious holiday.
They're
and
not.
I don't care for the
Easter.
I don't care for the religious aspect of Christmas. I'm like, look, celebrate Christ every Sunday. I'm like, Christmas is a beautiful tradition. It's not beautiful because it has anything to do with the seasonally inaccurate birth of Christ.
Well, there's debate about that, but
I know.
Right.
No,
we
I
don't,
have no
we don't
problem
know.
bringing up that debate.
We don't know when our Lord was born.
I know.
But you're right. Easter, we have some guests, but you're right. I am not moved by the liturgical calendar.
No.
I mean, there's a rhythm to it, and I get the rhythm.
Right.
But C.S. Lewis talks wonderfully about that. But you're right. Like, I don't feel more pious come Christmas time. I don't feel more pious during Easter or any other holidays.
Yeah.
I just, I'm a good Puritan. The Lord's Day is what moves me.
And
I know for the Lord's Day, and it's such an obvious thing, but I only recently really figured it out. And it's, again, so obvious. It's the first day of the week.
Right.
And because as with most Westerners, I associate Sunday as the last day of the week.
Right.
You go to work. First day of the week is Monday. You go to work from Friday, and Saturday and Sunday you have off. I'm really been trying to teach myself Sunday's the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
And the very first thing I do is I go to worship.
Yep.
And that's an offering unto the Lord. Now, whether it moves me or not, I don't care.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's nice if it's, if there is,
Oh, sure. Enjoyable things are enjoyable, but it's not necessary.
But it's still labor unto the Lord.
Right.
And hear the gospel. I hear the word. It's a good thing to start the week with. But you're right. But the liturgical calendar holidays, I mean, Christmas is moving because even though like Hark the Herald Angels Sing is one of the greatest theological hymns ever written.
Yep.
I mean, that's a theological study in itself, but it's more nostalgic when I sing it. It's such a beautiful
no,
hymn.
exactly. Yep. No, real quick, the first day of the week thing, and I find it interesting, again, that reflection on, cultural commentary. The European trend, of course, is the first day of the week is Monday, not Sunday. And there is a push to adopt that mentality as well, to make Monday the first day of the week. And I look at that, it's like, if you want to go with metric instead of the proper system of measurement, whatever, measurement's measurement. When you start to talk about, because, and I'll give you that, measurements are arguably arbitrary. If you use feet or meters or yards, okay, whatever, just pick something. Days, however, times and dates are not arbitrary. And when you view it from a purely secular standpoint, you're like, oh, well, why not make Monday the first day? I'm like, well, because there is a real significance to Sunday being understood as a significant day. And it became socially significant because of the incredible influence of Christianity upon Western society. But yeah, it mattered, and that does matter. So that's why, like, whenever I see people trying to push about, oh, change the first day of the week to Monday, the day when you go to work, I'm like, no, you're messing it up.
Is it official in Europe that the first
I
day of the
don't
week
know
is-
that it's official. Their ISO
Why not?
standards for their calendars
Yeah.
is that Monday is the beginning of the week. So now, how much that influences anything, I don't know, but that does have a theological impact.
Sure.
On that.
I just the Wikipedia has a little map. I went to it. So where Sunday is the first day of. Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's mostly in the American hemisphere. It's almost all of North and Central America and most of South America. Sunday is the first day of the week. So is India and Southern Africa. But you're right, for Europe, except for Portugal, the first day of the week is Monday. And I wonder if that's an ancient tradition or just a secular tradition. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. I noticed.
I don't know. I've never thought of that before.
I don't know I mean, because the only two, you have the Jewish calendar where the seventh day, well, Sunday's still the first day, right? Because the Sabbath is the last day of their week. Yeah. So it is Sunday's still the first day of the Jewish calendar. But it has significance within Christendom.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Christendom.
So do you have another random question, or do we want to...
let's see. I don't know. So other things, a lot of these are stupid. This one's actually kind of fun just because of who you are. And you and I are different on this. What movie scene choked you up the most?
It's funny. I am very unemotional. I never, as an adult, I've never cried during a movie.
Right.
Ever. And not because I'm like fighting back tears. It's just, I'm just not an emotional person. It's not there. The only one that comes close, and it's a weird one, and I don't know why. Have you ever seen the Pixar short Prep and Landing? Which is
that the Christmas one? Interestingly enough.
Yeah, with the elves.
With the elves.
And they're like paramilitary. Yes. It's great. It's actually my favorite Christian special, even more so than the nostalgia ones from the 60s and 70s. And there's the scene where the kid's half asleep and like Wayne, the head elf, like he's goofed up this kid's Christmas, and the kid's half asleep, and he says, "Thank you, Wayne." Right. I don't know why I don't know why that was the closest. Like that makes me feel so sad every time I see that scene.
Right.
So,
I, unlike you, don't feel emotion normally, and I feel emotion through. I feel vicariously through movies, and so there are plenty of movies that will elicit an emotional response from me. I think the ones that always get me is the end of Pixar's Inside Out. Well, actually, just a bunch of stuff from Inside Out, which is a great movie. But the ending of it, namely, where the daughter had run away. She was going to try to get back to their home because they had moved to California. I'd run away from California as well, but this was before Armageddon hit. And so she ends up coming back to her home, to her family and everything. And her mom and dad, and so she starts crying about, how much she misses her home and everything. Yeah. And the parents, they get down on her level and they're saying, yeah, we miss it too. And all of this and she's crying, and then the three of them hug. And while she's crying, there's that sigh of relief. And the psychological premise of it is that it's this complex emotion of both sadness and joy. And that scene, like which was also very well acted, because the voice acting was fantastic with that, with the girl who did I forgot her character's name. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, and that shuddered, the shuddering sigh while crying is just like it's so beautiful. It's very moving to me.
Never seen the movie.
And the other one, the other
I
one is Return of the King. As I've said many times before, it's in Return of the King when everyone kneels before Aragorn, and Aragorn goes up to the hobbits and he says, you kneel before no one or whatever. And then like all of this, just like how cool that is. I don't know. That's just like one of the coolest.
That's weird because I think that's a dorky scene.
I love that scene. That scene's phenomenal.
Which is
like, what great honor to show to these little men of valor.
Yep.
I love it.
I won't argue
love
it. But the other one I thought of, and it's a weird one, it's an age one, is Sleeping Beauty. And I never noticed this until I was a father. Because, when you watch the movie as a kid, you watch it through the kids' eyes, and you just take the parents for granted.
Right.
And I have, but now that I'm an adult, I have a daughter, and I'm like, they had to give up their daughter when she was just born. They didn't see her at all grow up whatsoever. She shows up when she's, I don't know, 18 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sees her for the first time for a few days, and then gets married and disappears.
Yep.
And to be robbed of that time with your daughter never occurred to me as a kid to see it that way.
Right.
Now as an adult, I don't like that movie. Well, as a kid, I was rooting for Maleficent, but that's another story altogether.
You and a lot of people, because apparently those movies have done very well.
Yeah. But it's a little kid like Vader, but anyways. But yeah, that I see that movie now so differently, and it bothers me. And of course, as a kid, never noticed it.
Yep. Also, we know that you like Vader, judging by the flag that you have behind you.
Yes, all the good people have English accents.
All the villains, they were all English actors. That was intentional. Although, I mean, to be fair,
which was smart. No, it was absolutely what to do. Yeah.
I liked the Empire better than the
well, as a little kid, it's just it's powerful, it's dynamic, and I like hierarchy. I like that structure. As a kid, I was like, cowboys and Indians never appealed to me. And again, surprise with the flag behind me. So it's flag Connecticut. Hearing the story of the army much more interested me.
Right.
I would rather hear about the cavalry in the American context than the cowboys. And in particular, I'd rather hear about 19th century redcoats.
Right.
But just for a silly preference.
Yeah,
we're gonna lose so many viewers over this.
No, it's fine. Well, and the weird thing when it comes to Americana, which is the term, and it's one of those things like you tend not to, and maybe this is a northern thing. You tend not to care for the country where you're born and raised. That's that. Well, I mean,
there's definitely less patriotism in the North because we are much more liberal and much more secular.
Right.
I mean, as a generalization, Democrats, at least in the modern sense, are much less patriotic than Republicans by every statistic standards. Yeah.
And not even like you don't care, like, oh, the place could burn, though there are plenty of people like that. But I mean, like the parts where you grow up isn't as exciting as where you didn't grow up. And you see this in, like that obsession with one of the big ones, especially on the West Coast, is Japanese culture. Like Japanese culture is huge and it's exciting because it's so not Americana. And one of the weirdest things for me, which kind of made me feel bad, I guess, a little bit of little ashamed of not loving, the American life and being, finding all things Japanese super cool, is when, and I don't remember his name, but he's a game developer and designer and whatnot, and all of his games are American. And his reasoning for it, he's like, because he loves all things Americana. He loves our Western life and culture the way that a lot of us love Japanese. And I kind of thought, I'm like, well, that's interesting. Are there things that are lovable? And it, like, the military is one of those things that historic military that's non-American is more fascinating to me than America. Take World War II.
I read more about the Japanese of late than I do the Americans.
Right.
So I read both.
Right.
But
Like World War II, Japanese military was cool. The German military,
was a term for that.
the Germans, the World War II Germans were cool. Looking and all this stuff, and German's a cool language. Americans, we had green, and it was just kind of that. The British, at least they had royal appended to all of their things.
Majesty's.
Right. And so it's one of those things, like trying to even to look at, I'm like, well, what things are there that are distinctly American, that are exciting, even within the military? And the closest that I came, and even this is super debatable because I don't think it's completely historically accurate, the Rangers, right? That was an American thing.
Colonial started by a very devout Calvinist, by the way, their origins.
Oh, nice.
Benjamin Church, I believe, was his name, if I remember
Maybe
correctly.
we just haven't been around long enough to have anything cool yet.
Oh, but there's a term. Well, I was looking it up. I couldn't remember. There's a great term about internet guys who like German World War II stuff just a little too much. What is? I don't remember. But
it's a fascinating part. Again, I think.
I mean, obviously, yeah, because it is weird. Because I obviously both of us are patriotic,
right?
And by the way, again, my flag—that's the first flag of Connecticut, so it has Connecticut reference.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is that kind of like looking beyond. I know my wife bought me. Do I have it? No, it's holding up there. I recently went to the library. I grew up in Manchester, Connecticut, and I went to the Mary Cheney Library, and there was like 3 or 4 books I remember I always got as a kid, and one of them was a large hardcover book. It's actually up there in the corner. My wife just got it for my birthday, called Battle Dress, and I wanted to see if these books were still where they were, 45 years ago, and the Battle Dress still one was there. And it was so cool because I found the number, and I just went by the number, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's not. And I'm like, oh no, wait a minute, it was an extra large book, and it literally hadn't moved in 45 years.
Nice.
And the reason I loved it, I'm actually going to read it now. I never read it as a kid because I was like 6 or 7,
right.
But it had really cool color pictures of uniforms.
Yep.
And of course, 20th century uniforms for the most part pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But those 19th, 18th century where everyone was color coded.
Yep.
As a kid, that's something beautiful.
Yep.
The Brits are wearing red, the Americans are wearing blue, the French are wearing white, the Russians are wearing green, the Spanish are in yellow. I'm like, yay!
Yeah.
And those 19th and 18th century uniforms were just so beautiful.
Back when you didn't have to blend in with your surroundings or worry about snipers.
Yep. Yeah. Nope. No, and that battle dress made sense if you're fighting with non-rifled muskets,
right?
But you're right. I mean, though it's interesting. You're talking about patriotism, because I remember when I first got into history, it was about the Revolutionary War, and I was 9 during the bicentennial in 1976, and that was a huge thing. And yeah, I've become less patriotic.
Yeah.
I definitely have.
No, I don't know that I was ever all that patriotic.
Yeah,
which
you're from more cynical age, I think, though.
Yes, and I am also a cynical person.
Yeah.
I also have a book, though. It was funny because you were mentioning that a book from my childhood, which I then later rebought just because it was awesome. It is a Castles book, and I remember it. Well, no, it's a little. Hold on. It is literally Castles. Castle.
David Macaulay is one of my all-time favorite authors. Have you seen the video?
No, there's a video.
Oh,
awesome.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
I will watch that.
He created castles, Roman cities, pyramid, and some other things. It's an hour-long documentary, and half of it's animated. Awesome. So he goes to these castles in Wales. That's one of my all-time favorite books. Use it for my D&D campaign back in the day. But if you go to the YouTube, the video is better than the book.
Okay.
And the one on the cathedrals is also epic. And there's Roman city, Actually, when I get back from my sabbatical, I was going to do a class on the culture and history of the first century AD, and we're going to watch his one on Roman City.
Nice.
So sorry for rambling, but
No,
I
no,
was
no.
wondering if
No,
you
that's
were go-
very cool. I will
I was
definitely
wondering
check
if
those
you were going
out.
to get David Macaulay's book. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great guy.
yeah. So I had that book as a kid, and I loved it, and I read it a whole bunch of times, and it was just that wonderful window into that time period and everything. And so then I had to buy it again as an adult because I'm like, I really liked this book. It was great. And so then I thumbed through it again after I bought it. I'm like, yep, still awesome book.
The TV show is better. It's PBS Castle David Macaulay on YouTube.
Nice.
And they have the other ones, Pyramid, Roman City, and Cathedral. It is well worth your watch. It's actually one of my all-time favorite TV shows.
I like it. No, I will
So
definitely take that. I will
yeah,
take a look at
wow.
that. Yeah, no, that one's super cool.
So
Yep, nope, still got more. Let's see. So
right.
here's the next stupid one.
Yep.
Where is the most awe-inspiring place you have been?
There's only one. Well, no, there's two. And again, I really questioning my patriotism here. Two places. For
Either of them
one,
are America.
no, they're in the UK. The most beautiful place I've ever been is Conway, Conwy, no A, Wales. It's one of the few walled cities, and by the way, related to the castle book, it's all together. It's one of the few remaining medieval walled cities. And all the coolest castles in Wales, all the coolest castles in England, the medieval ones, the real castles, not the fancy ones, are on the Welsh marts. They're in Wales because they were built by the English to take out the Welsh. And Macaulay's book is based on Welsh castles.
Nice.
And so there's this beautiful ruin, but mostly still there, castle up on the hill. It's a port city, so you get the whole shipping thing, and it's walled. It's a medieval walled port city with an ancient cathedral up on the hill, and it's in Wales. And I'm not Welsh. Fell in love with it. Best city I've ever been. If I could retire just for fanciness. The other one, just most inspiring, I would have to say, is I did a semester at Oxford in England. And if Satan had to tempt me, it wouldn't be with money, it wouldn't be with women, it would be a professorship at Oxford. I'll be blunt. I mean, that's that would be like. And I did a semester at Oxford, and it was, as someone who loves academics, like the colleges, you don't join the university, you join a college, and it's all these different colleges, and they're of course they're ancient and they're walled. And there's a whole trick, by the way, sneaking into them, but that's for another video. But the walled colleges, and like you'd go in, and it's like something out of Hogwarts. And I love it. Like a quote new college, which I think is the most beautiful college in Oxford. I think it was like mid 14th century, and that's the new
that's
one.
Pretty new.
So yeah, my Anglophilia is coming out here.
Right.
So those are my two. What are yours?
I not being all that well traveled. I mean, because it's been, here in the States, and then we went to Romania, and Romania was nice and all, but there's nothing awe-inspiring about. No offense to Romania, but there's nothing awe-inspiring in Romania. Just as there's not much awe-inspiring here for me personally. I would have to say though, it was my first deployment. It was my first, so it was my first, the first time I was underway, and we surfaced at night we patrolled the Atlantic. So we were in the Atlantic, and it was summertime.
Southern Cross?
And it was night. What?
Did you see the Southern Cross?
Did I see the Southern Cross?
Yeah.
No.
Well, too many were you in Atlantic? Sorry. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, we surfaced, and the night sky, when you don't have light pollution, as it is called, because in normal civilized areas, you can't see but a few stars just because of the ambient light from everything. When you're in the middle of nowhere, there's no light from anything. And so we surfaced in the middle of nowhere, and it was the most gorgeous sky I have ever seen in my life. I did not know there were that many stars. I mean, like I'd never witnessed that. You see pictures of like telescopes out in space, sort of a thing. But the ability to see that on Earth was just, it was so amazing that had never happened before. It was like the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen. It was bright. The sky was bright because of it. It was gorgeous. I loved that. I mean, other than that, you know, I've seen some nice things, especially coming down here. You know, you go down to
you take it for
Anakeesta, which is
granted. Yeah,
the Smoky Mountains.
it's amazing how the stuff around you, you just like
Oh
Connecticut's
yeah,
a very beautiful state for
it
all its
is.
crazy politics. I'm hard pressed to think. I mean, I'm not a great world traveler, so
Right.
I can't judge things.
Nope.
But I love New England.
It's
I love
gorgeous.
its
It is
looks. I
absolutely
love its,
gorgeous.
yeah,
Yep.
especially in the fall. I
Yep.
mean, it's hard to beat in the fall.
Yep.
So,
The history is wonderful. I
yeah.
mean, like if you could time travel to like 18th century New England, I'm sure it would be, you know, the most amazing thing ever. It's the current occupants of Connecticut with which I
Right.
take issue.
Right.
Connecticut itself is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The history is great. You can't replicate or replace that. Down here, that's one of the things that we do miss. We miss the historic aspect. We, you know, because Tennessee has history, but it's redneck. And, you know, I don't know, it's a very different kind of history up north.
Well, and even more so in England when cause I've been in England a couple times,
and they have real history there.
Yeah, right. Because like you know, for us, if it's a few hundred years old, that's
right.
You know,
it's old.
And you know, I mean, I remember once I think it was in like the lowlands of Scotland or something, or maybe northern England. And we were just driving around. It was just some rando place. It wasn't, you know, Stonehenge or something epic like that. And we're just in some small little town, no name town, and they had, of course, the ruins of their castle up on the hill that you know wasn't walled off or anything. You just walked up there and walked around these ruins of this castle that had been there for 1,500 years or so, or 1,000 years. And it's like, this is cool.
Yeah,
and you have these these villages that or towns that are thousands of years old. I mean, some of them over 2,000 years old, and I'm like, we don't have that in America.
No.
I mean, yes, we're one of the oldest, actually current one of the oldest continuous countries in existence.
Right.
But that sense of history, and I guess, why do I love England so much? I think a lot of it is history, that sense of history. And when I was a little kid, that was my favorite subject to begin with. I just so.
Yeah. No, and like we hit that in Romania on our day off from hospice work. We took a train and we went out to Sighișoara, which was a village, a little village, and it was one of the few remaining sites that Count Tep, or Dracula, had a fort. And so a lot of the surrounding town was more modern comparatively, but you walk into the center of town, and at one point it goes from paved roads to cobblestone. And I remember looking at Susie and going, these stones are older than America. I'm like, this road has been here longer than anything we've ever seen or known. And it was, and the fort was actually very cool. His keep up on the mountain and the churches and everything. And there is a history there. It's no longer that. They're no longer that culture, that people necessarily, but it still is of an influence on to them. And and we don't have that here. We don't have history like that at all. And even the history we do have, we're trying to just burn and tear down.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, and it's just, and I want we'll keep it. I guess keep this one light.
We'll keep it.
But yeah, but the anti-history of our woke leftist culture is just so offensive.
It is,
and also often at the end, and we've talked about some other videos. It's one of my frustrations with why I hate pop evangelicalism so much.
Right.
Yeah, I like that Christianity is rooted in history and have worship rooted in history. To say the Apostles' Creed every Sunday that's been said for 1,600 years is just beautiful. But next question. Since we're what, just ChatGPT?
No, actually, I should have done that. We'll have to ask that thing next time. Can I chat OpenAI,
Oh, I thought. Oh,
chat.openai.com.
well, where are we getting these other questions from?
Just some rando site somebody put up somewhere. It's
Oh,
some
what
good
what
old
time? How
good
long
old
are we
thing.
into this video so far? Just curious.
44 minutes. We're
Okay,
good.
thanks.
We're good. Yeah, let's what if I
Oh no, this is fun. No rush. I was
what
just
if I
curious.
ask chat?
I'm a clock watcher. It's
No,
terrible.
I know. Oh no, I didn't want to click forget password. This UI, come on. There we go. Oh, well, the other one, just in the meantime, it was what is the most overrated movie?
Oh, I know this.
Oh, okay. I know this like it's an objective fact.
Yes. Nope. I will speak truth, and we can end the
Okay, go
video.
ahead. Go ahead.
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with you know what? I'd probably agree with you. I've never seen it. So I think I know only of a couple scenes because they are repeated all the time
I just
everywhere.
it's such a bad movie. It's my mother-in-law's favorite movie. I know. Again, we're gonna lose so many video viewers over this crazy episode,
Yeah.
but it's so boring. The two main characters are so shallow. It's where if I'm a Yankee, so it's about the South. Who cares about that?
Maybe that's why you hate it.
But I'm a big General Lee Stonewall Jackson fan too. So you know,
Yep. You know, there's a holiday for General Lee down here.
well, isn't it? I thought it was Lee Jackson Day.
The
Well,
say
that's Virginia.
no,
No,
no.
because there's some southern state that has Lee Jackson Day. And they celebrate. I don't know what day, but they put them together. But you have General Lee Day
There is, let's see, there's Robert E. Lee Day.
in Tennessee. Cool.
And the observances are, so in Tennessee,
Yeah.
January 19th is Lee's birthday.
Okay.
It was established as a holiday in 1917. But then they demoted it to a day of observation instead of a holiday in 1969.
Yeah,
But
there's Lee Jackson Day in Virginia.
nice. Yeah.
But it was
Texas,
eliminated. It
Florida,
was
and
eliminated in
Alabama.
2020 Day.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever. Yeah, so Gone with the Wind then. I've never seen it, so I couldn't tell you. I have no opinion on it. I don't know that I don't know if I have an opinion on something that everyone loves that I don't when it
I
comes
hate
to
everything
movies.
equally.
Right. They're all bad. I don't know. You know, and that's other kind of a weird thing. Like Star Wars, the original sagas, the original three, were defining of a generation, if you will. Like
10
it
years
was
old.
it was a
First
huge
PG
deal.
movie ever saw.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know that you could say that for me. For you know, I'm 40. I don't know that in 40 years is there something that you can look back and with equal conviction say this movie defined a generation? I'm like, I think there's so much junk that people have cranked out since I've been alive that there isn't one thing.
Well,
it's all niche.
It is interesting because I mean, obviously, there's nostalgia, and you naturally you think like yours is the best.
Right, yours is the best.
I remember.
Right.
I remember again. You were talking with a missionary from a church that's your age, and you guys are talking about your favorite cartoons. I'm like, you guys have garbage taste. Because I mean, cartoons from my childhood were so much. But it is interesting though. But your point, like I have a daughter who's off to college, and her generation admits that her music is not as good as the older generations, which is such a weird thing.
Yeah.
I always assumed, like, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and that's the type of music I really like because I'm from the 70s, 80s. I mean, music goes by decades until 1990, then it stops.
Right.
I mean, there's music from the, there's 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then I define new, and drives Rebecca crazy, from, if it's from 1990 to 2023, it's all the same.
Right.
There's no difference. Now, you'd probably add the 90s because you grew up with that generation. But it is interesting. The younger generation, they have a sense that their stuff is not as good.
The 90s sucked.
Yeah,
the defining genre of the 90s was grunge. And grunge is awful.
Yep.
Kurt Cobain was not the voice of our generation.
And we had neon pink polo shirts from the 80s. So
it wasn't good. It wasn't good then. It's not good now. Nirvana is I hate Nirvana.
All right.
So I didn't like them then. I don't like them now.
So you don't have an answer to the question.
What was my oh
What's
no,
your least
I don't
what's your
I
least
don't
favorite movie that
have
everyone finds popular? You have to give
right.
an
So
answer.
the most overrated movie. Uh, I don't know. And because the problem is I actually appreciate some of the the highly acclaimed movies. Like the one that comes to mind, which is sort of the opposite. A lot of people hate it, but I thought it was amazing, is 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I thought was a phenomenal masterpiece.
I showed it to Rebecca, and
But a
she
lot of
loved
people
it.
are like, that movie's dumb.
I remember first watching it as a kid right after Star Wars,
Right.
and it's like, this is horrible. And then I watched it as a college student for some reason, some late Christmas Eve, and I'm like, oh, that's it.
Right.
Yeah. And I showed it to Rebecca, and I said, look, this is Kubrick. Be warned. This is a long, kind of trippy movie, but it's a really good movie.
Yep.
Now, I also like 2010.
Nope, haven't seen.
That's Roy Schneider.
Okay.
It's a sequel. If you watch it, it's not a Kubrick movie, and all minor spoiler, it
Okay.
explains everything.
Oh, I'm like, well, then there's no point if it's not
So
Kubrick.
but if you approach it not as a Kubrick movie, but as a standard sci-fi movie, I kind of enjoy it.
Okay, right. Yeah, which, and there's a place for that. I
Yeah.
looked up overrated movies, like the top overrated movies. Number 3 is The Exorcist. And
Well,
that's
that horror movies are a weird one, and I think in our private conversation we talked about this recently.
right.
Well, Andrew Clavin, yeah, I said his name wrong. Over on Daily Wire, who's a Christian but also is a movie critic. He argues that a lot of older movies don't work anymore. Like vampires used to be scary because why? Vampires would come and suck your soul.
Right.
The Exorcist is scary because demons exist and hell exists. And even if you didn't go to church in the 70s, you were still vaguely Christian. You were still scared that there was a hell. If you no longer believe in, well, God, or hell or judgment or your soul, those things are no longer scary and they become comic. And like vampires now are either love interests or they're silly. They're no longer scary.
Yeah.
Or you're sympathetic to them.
Yeah, that's the big trend. That's right up there with let's make everyone sympathetic to orcs. And I'm like, but orcs are evil. We know they're evil. It's written.
Tolkien was going to write a book about that. So we had some technical difficulties, but I think where I was last talking that Tolkien was going to write a book. He never did. That was going to explain like 100 years after the end of the Return of the King, where the people had kind of just grown bored with the stories of Aragorn and they've forgotten their history, and the professors through the critical method were, was Aragorn really truly that good? And the kids would go out and play orcs and stuff. And it was about really the disintegration of Western civilization. He didn't write it, but it would have been a fascinating book to write. And also, it's kind of scary that both Lewis and Tolkien saw that problem in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And they saw where we were going to go.
Right.
And now we're in, full clown world. So
which is interesting, that is sort of interesting take on history, where rather than remember that the bad guys were bad guys, you romanticize. Well, I mean, look at Vikings. Vikings are hip and cool now. I'm like, but they were murderous. They raped and pillaged and burned. I'm like, Vikings were horrible people. And now we're all like, yeah, but they make money now and they're fun.
Go to Plymouth Village, and the Indians, I'm going to use the old word, are, they're the great heroes. They're the culture to learn from. And the Puritans, it's like, disdain. Or let alone go to Salem, Massachusetts.
Yep.
Yikes. But anyways, but we're keeping this positive.
Forget real history. Yeah, so we're not going to use ChatGPT, but I'm going to read you the 2 that it generated for me because I think that I care very little for it. So 3 questions. I asked it to give me random topics of conversation, and the first one, it's first response, and I don't care for the actual. We're not going to discuss these because they're dumb. But the first one is the impact of technology on modern relationships. Like, okay.
Oh, I wanted a more precise, simple, fun.
The second one, the impact of social media on modern relationships.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I
And
would
then
say
the
more-
third one, the role of artificial intelligence in shaping future employment opportunities.
we only have like 10 minutes left.
Really?
I was hoping something. I like the other list. So just something.
Yeah, no,
more
we're
precise.
doing that because
Yeah.
it,
I mean, we do need to talk about Chat GPT and
right, but that's a totally that's a
yeah, that's a
different,
wole but
that's a
but like,
different thing.
what holiday would you remove? That's like
Right, those are much more fun. If you had to, oh, yeah, there it is. What's the worst movie you've seen recently? Keeping it on the movie theme.
I'm an old person. I don't watch movies that much.
I watch movies all the time.
Um,
I've got an answer
you
to
answer
that
then. I'll
one.
have to think.
I've got an answer.
Go for it.
The
Recently,
most recent Spider-Man movie.
the animated one.
Across the Spider-Verse or
Oh,
into
everyone
whichever.
seems to love that one. I've heard.
Ha! What's the worst overrated movie?
There we go.
That one.
Full circle. Full circle.
All right. I hate that movie. Now, background. I didn't see the first one. Apparently, that one is an unofficial sequel. So there was Into the Spider-Verse, I think, and then there's Across the Spider-Verse. So, I don't know which one came first. I don't care. That's how little I care about this. I saw that movie, and it was garbage. So the reason why it was garbage, and it wasn't even garbage because of the trans flag. I didn't even notice the trans flag in that movie, but that's been all the rage, which is why you can't go see it in the UAE, because the UAE actually has standards. But over here, you can watch anything and you can show it to children. That flag aside, the things that I hated about it are, interestingly enough, the things that everybody is praising it for. The difference of animation in every section is disgustingly jarring.
Okay.
And this is coming from somebody like, I am fine with even something like the Animatrix. So the Animatrix was the history, short stories, historic and current, about the Matrix universe.
Okay.
And each of the stories was animated by different people. And so it conveyed a different theme. Which was great. Yep. It was the same idea here. Each character, their different Spider-Verse, was animated differently, and therefore they were animated differently. Even when they crossed over into different Spider-Verses, they still retained their animation. I get the art behind it. It was a really bad idea for a movie. It does not translate into this medium. You're watching overly saturated, like 6,000% bloom, eye bleeding scenes for like 10-15 minutes at a clip.
Okay.
It's impossible to. I'm like, this is disgusting. It's garbage. Nothing fit. It was all gross and jarring. And if that was the intent, well, then good on you for that one. The story. Now, maybe it's because I'm 40 and the target audience are probably teenagers.
Yep.
But it had it invoked zero response from me. I watched this movie. I didn't care about the kids. I didn't care about their characters. I didn't care about their plight, their suffering, their whatevers. I'm like, it didn't do it for me at all. And maybe it's also because because I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I'm not a DC. I'm not a DC comic fan, so much so that I forgot that
Did you say Spider-Man's DC?
I'm kidding. So I care so little.
I was gonna say.
I care so little for comics in general that all of the fun Easter eggs, I didn't get. And now this is also a critique I have in general. For a general population, if the highlight of your movie appeals only to super fans, it's not a well done movie. As opposed to, I will say, the Super Mario Brothers movie, which if you hated Mario, the story in the movie was still fun. If you liked Mario and Nintendo, it was more fun. The other movie that couldn't do that, again, there was a Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Phenomenal movie, only if you played the game. If you've
Right.
never played Final Fantasy VII, it's the stupidest movie on the face of the planet. And that's a legitimate critique. So I watched this Spider-Man movie. I know nothing about the Spider-Verses or all the different Spider-Men. Sorry, Spider people. Because there are also many women portraying the spider
People, yeah.
spider person character. I cared for none of it. And everyone's like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I've not seen it, so I've
was
heard
crappy.
it's going to get good review. There was I can't remember. There was some movie I watched. I'm near the mic here. I hated it. I don't remember it. So I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, we can do one more. Go a little over. It's fine.
We had a break.
Because we lost some time for technical things. Wait, what will be the future of TV shows? No. What was your worst vacation experience? All of them? I don't like leaving the house.
Mine was going to Tennessee.
I don't blame you.
And
you had to walk for like
I was
6 hours a day.
And by the way, I was just sick. I didn't feel good. It was really hot. The company was okay. But also
I don't blame you.
I'm a New Englander. Nashville, just there was nothing in Nashville that interested me.
There's nothing in Nashville that interests me. Nashville's not Tennessee. Nashville is corporate Tennessee. Nashville is the marketed Tennessee. I think you'll hit that in a lot of places because everything's like cowboy boots. And I'm like, we don't, nobody has cowboy boots.
My daughter, my good New England daughter bought cowboy boots.
Right. Because Nashville is for tourists.
Yeah.
I live in rural Knox County. Yep. There's no tourism up here.
I wanted to go visit. There's some great battlefields I really wanted to check. One of them being in one of Nashville, but in Tennessee, but just didn't have the time.
Right.
Also, I was just sick. It was hot. You have horrible weather down there.
That ruins everything. Everything for you. Oh well, we don't go outside during the summer.
Yeah. So just by the way. Not only am I wearing a sweater and it's June in New England, we've had one of the coldest summers so far.
Right.
Our highest temperature of the last few weeks has been like 73.
Yeah, we've been in summer since sometime around April. I love it. The last one, and I have to read it off because it's actually a very interesting question.
All right, go for it. Quick answer.
There won't be a quick answer though, which is kind of the thing, but it's sort of just an interesting question anyway.
Challenge. Yep.
Can you think of any technology that has only made the world worse? And how about a piece of technology that has only made the world better? Which is a very interesting thing because I don't know that
I only made it worse.
Only made it worse.
Birth control.
Ooh. Good call.
Now, granted, there's been it has some minor medical issue, help
wow, that's a good one. But I wasn't thinking that.
But for overall, for just wreaking havoc.
Yep.
If you did away with birth control, the place would be a much better place.
Yes. No. Good. Wow. All right. I was
thinking that's only positive and has done no bad. I don't know, the writing of the Bible, because obviously it's been
right, but you can't because
I was going to say that you can't go with a printing press.
No, because the printing press has also printed a whole lot of horrible things.
Yeah.
I can think of seemingly
only done good.
My answer would be
penicillin. It's just some medicine that's not addictive. That's I don't know.
Penicillin. Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
No, because even penicillin has led to antibiotic abuse, which has caused a lot of negative effects in the fact that you have now antibiotic resistance. And that's not necessarily, but again, technically that's not the technology's fault. That's our abuse of it.
I have one. Glasses. Okay.
Glasses. Oh yeah. Yeah. Mine was going to be again, as stupid as it is. Mine was going to be DNS, the domain name system. It's what converts URLs to IP addresses and allows connections. That one isolated piece of technology has performed its job and done so amazingly, and is not directly responsible for any bad things. Now it's a part of an underlying architecture of something which is
The internet's
riddled
never
with
done any damage
problems.
whatsoever in life. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of damage that the internet has done. So maybe you can say anything that aids the internet's
The internet,
existence
yeah.
also is not
Yeah.
pure. Glasses. Yeah, I think other than
It'd be
you
something
know,
medical. I mean, because I mean, how do you
Yeah.
misuse glasses? I mean,
glasses, that's like
Yeah.
prosthetics,
yeah,
right? I mean, things that medicine that restores and is incapable, if you will, of transhumanism.
Yeah.
I would say yes. And glasses, now, granted, you could say, you know, binoculars enhance you. Well, binoculars aren't a medical thing. If you could install binoculars, be all cyberpunk.
and lenses, you eventually get lasers or something. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
I mean, if you want to, you know, tease it out.
Geordie LaForge.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Glasses.
I like birth control though.
Birth control. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I didn't think of that because I'm like, man, most technology is bad because of its abuse or its intended use. But well, actually, because of its abuse. I wasn't thinking of what
birth
has been
control
created.
was not made originally for stopping reproduction. It was something else. And I'm trying to remember, and they realized, oh, you could do it for this. And the person who came up with it, and I'm going by memory, he commented because people were all excited and because of the possibilities, was like, you're not thinking this out.
Right.
This is going to radically change society. And
Right.
I've always thought if I could change one thing, if you do away with birth control, I think so many of our problems we face would just simply would because you'd be forced back into a much more natural creative order.
Right.
Birth control is an assault on the created order.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Spoken like a true Catholic.
Amen.
Well, when I rail against contraception with my Catholic friend, he always laughs. He always laughs. He's like, he's like, maybe you're a closeted Catholic. I'm like, well, no, but you guys got that one right.
Yeah, they absolutely, we got that totally wrong. They got it right.
Yep.
So, but it has been a full hour.
Yes,
that was fun. I was
that's our
skeptical
time.
on your random thing, but that was
random's fun.
I don't know if we had fun. Go watch David Macaulay's Castle.
Right.
Cathedral.
Yes, I will. I will. I don't think I have any parting words of wisdom because, you know, that's not the point of this. There is no wisdom. All right.
So thank you, folks in Internet Land.
All right. We'll talk next time.